Hi, so welcome again. We are doing a reading for the collective. And, if you are watching this video, you are part of the collective. You are the collective of, the group of energetic resonance that has found this video. And so this question is for you and all of us in this group, this collective of what's important for us to know right now. What's important for us to know right now? What is the messages that want to come through for us right now? All right. So we have the Knight of Cups, the Two of Swords, Page of Pentacles, Five of Swords, and Nine of Swords. Wow, lots of swords coming through for us. Okay. So, the Knight of Cups is really a card about romance, but it's not necessarily romance in the sense of relationships. It can be, absolutely, but it's also very much a sense of like romance of life. Like, what are the things that make you feel in love, that you're in love with, that bring this this joy and peace through through having a romantic relationship with it. I very clearly remember when I was traveling through Mexico for the first time. I was in love with life. I was having a romantic relationship with life. Nothing was wrong. It was, it was just this beautiful, don't get me wrong. There were things that, I had to work through, of course, but like it was just like having a beautiful relationship, beautiful romantic relationship with a partner, but I was having it with life, So I think it's really important to experience that, to have that like joie de vivre, where like you're in love with life, and the Knight of Cups is really, for me, like that's the card of like being in love with something, or being in love with someone, or being in love with life itself. And the Two of Swords are clearly about, like, twos are always about making decisions, right? There's twos in numerology is it's having to make a decision. And when it's swords, which is the element of air, and swords represent thought, ideas, truth, it's really having to make a decision in that realm of like, your ideas or your thoughts, or some truths that may have been recently presented. And it's very interesting because this cat in this deck has been cut, right? So the wounds of this decision are like, if you make the wrong decision, it can really, I feel, be a wound that can scar you and stay with you forever. So this feels like a very important decision. And the decision is around which way to go, what path to take. Like, how are you moving forward in life? What is the things that that you are building for yourself? What is the path that you are going down? Like, what is that life path for you? And how are you taking the first step towards it? And is it based in ego and fear, right? So again, like this, the Five of Swords here, this cat is missing an eye. And the Five of Swords, like, really sometimes it represents like winning at all costs, which for me like really communicates ego. When you are in this energy of wanting to win at all costs, you're not thinking about others, you're thinking about how important this win is. And that's a very ego-driven perspective. And again, that doesn't come without wounds. When you operate, when you let the ego take the lead, it's it it it's not the easiest place to be, like, in the sense that there will be like real consequences, because ego typically acts out of like wanting to protect, right? And so that being said, there is really a basis of fear that the ego is kind of working from. And that's what the Nine of Swords is. The Nine of Swords is fear. It's this inability to really step into a healthy perspective of life, because you're in this energy of fear. And when you're operating from an energy of fear, you're really, you're not really embodying your divinity, right? You're not really embodying this idea of having a romantic relationship with life, So it's really important to make decisions. How can you, what decisions can you make that help you along, to have this really beautiful romantic relationship with life, to help you feel in love with your life, right? Because this is our one life that we get, or that we're consciously aware of anyway. And, why not make it the best possible life, right? Like, so how do we make decisions that allow us to live this best possible life that we can even, imagine? Because when we're not in alignment with that, when we're not in alignment with, having this love for life, the consequences, like, they're very painful. They hurt. They leave scars. Yeah, so what kind of decisions are you making to really put you on the right path that brings you, to a place where you can really feel good about the life that you're living? Yeah. And not just, again, like, swords are very mental energy, right? So it's like, it's not just about, making decisions in the mind. It's also then about taking, appropriate action to bring them into the physical. Yeah. And again, another reminder about really, like, in living from ego. Like, ego is not necessarily something that we want to dissolve, because the ego, it keeps us safe, right? It helps us to engage in this human experience in a way that does protect us. Because if we all if we didn't know how to, like, set boundaries with people, or we didn't know how to stand up for ourselves, and these things, it would make life very challenging, right? So the ego is valuable. You do have to have the ego present, but you want to make sure you're not always leading with the ego, right? Like, the ego is there to help provide some balance, because neither can you live in, like, this spiritual airy fairy world all the time, where, like, you're not really even grounded in this physical world. We're here for a reason, right? We're here to have this physical experience. We're here in this 3D body to have this 3D experience. And so, but, like, what are we learning, and how are we evolving in order to move into higher experiences, move into the fourth and the fifth dimensional experiences? And I really feel like that process involves being aware of the ego, being aware of how we make decisions from ego, being aware of how the ego can control us in many ways, and then keeping it in check, right? Like, not trying to dissolve it, but keeping it in check, so that you're not always, operating from a place where the ego is taking the lead. Because I feel like if you are, then you are operating from a place of fear, where where all of your decisions and all of your engagements with life is not really coming from a place of love, but rather coming from a place of fear. And that's really what we want to be careful of, right? So when we are moving through life, right, this human experience, we want to experience it from a place of love and not from a place of fear. Okay, so that's the message for you today. Hope you all having a wonderful day. Aloha.